Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Caitlin Charisse. I am a romance author, which also means I'm an avid romance reader. One book that I absolutely loved and got me out of a huge reading slump was The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I'm sure if you guys have been on Booktok for a hot minute, you have seen this cover. This has been on Booktok for the last couple of years. This is the first in a trilogy by Lauren Asher, the Dreamland Billionaire series. The Fine Print is the first book, Terms and Conditions is the second, and The Final Agreement, I think, is the last one. The first book follows middle brother Rowan Cain of the three Cain brothers. And of the three books, I've read all three. This one was actually my favorite. Even though this has gotten so much hate online, it has really torn people apart. Some people absolutely love it, other people absolutely hate it. This was such a pleasure read for me. Like, I didn't walk away amazed or astounded. I didn't really learn much from it, if I'm going to be honest, but it was so enjoyable. I got sucked in so much. I listened to this on audiobook. The audiobook narrators did a fantastic job. Rowan. I'm in the business of creating fairy tales, production companies, 5-star hotels, theme parks. Everything can be mine if I renovate Dreamland. Hiring Zara was a great plan until I fell for her. By the time I realized where I went wrong, it was too late. People don't like me don't get happy endings, not when we're destined to ruin them. Zara is our main love interest in this, and she's an employee of Dreamland. After submitting a drunk proposal criticizing Dreamland's most expensive ride, I should have been fired. Instead, Rowan Cain offered me a dream job. The catch? I had to work for the most difficult boss I'd ever met. Rowan was rude and completely off limits, but my heart didn't care. At least not until I discovered his secret. It was time to teach the billionaire that money couldn't fix everything, especially not us. We love a strong female main character who could put a billionaire in his place. So without further ado, let's get into reviewing The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. The book opens up at Brady Cain's funeral. Like I said, Brady is basically Walt Disney, and his son and his 3 grandsons are all there. Now, Rowan is there. He is the typical grumpy. I mean, this is grumpy sunshine on steroids. Lauren Asher will beat you over the head to let you know that this is a grumpy sunshine romance. So we have grumpy Rowan Cain, who's at his grandfather's funeral, and his grandfather's lawyer comes over and gives him a letter from the deceased. So Rowan reads it, and basically he has been tasked by Brady to revigor the theme parks. Rowan's already the director. He's already in place to do this, but he hates everything to do with the theme parks. He does not want to go to Florida. He is happy to stay in his comfortable little cozy loft in Chicago. But when he talks to his 2 brothers, they all realize that they've been assigned some sort of task by their grandfather in order to inherit their shares of Dreamland and kick their abusive CEO father out of power. So Rowan reluctantly decides to go to Florida to follow his grandfather's wishes/orders in order for him to receive his inheritance and also kick his father out of the company. Next up we have the meet cute with Zara. Zara is the epitome of sunshine. She is bright, bubbly, she wears flowery dresses, she has these like enamel pins that she puts on her bag and stuff like that all the time. The first chapter she actually shows up late to an employee meeting, and she's carrying a skateboard, which we never see again, but she is stumbling around and ends up sitting next to Rowan. Of course, she has no idea who Rowan is. And none of the employees have been told that Rowan has now moved back to the theme parks in order to assess everything, see where he can save money, see where he can improve performance. One thing that I found odd about this, like the whole meeting idea is cute, but Zara is basically one of the beauticians in what Disney calls the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. So she does little kids like hair and makeup and stuff like that for her job. They're at an employee meeting. This guy is C-level executive. She is like practically a nobody in his world. And how are they having this giant meeting? Like, doesn't Disney World employ like tens of thousands of people? And there are thousands of people that work in the theme parks on a daily basis. So how is it that these 2 ended up in some sort of employee meeting at the start? It doesn't quite add up, doesn't quite make sense. You have to suspend your disbelief for some of this. So while Zara goes and sits next to Rowan, she stumbles, grabs onto his leg, nearly grabs his crotch to stop herself from falling, and that is not the smoothest meet cute ever. So the MC starts the meeting, and so Rowan's like trying to be serious. He's listening in on us, even though he's sitting there thinking about how hot Zara is sitting next to him. She's kind of making a lot of noise going through her backpack, and he tells her, like, shush, I'm trying to listen to this meeting. And while this is going on, the MC starts talking about the company and the bottom line and saving money. And Zara's like, of course, it's all about the bottom line for these people. And Rowan's like, what do you mean? Like, let me see what she has to say. So Zara just lets loose and tells him all about how the employers are basically making minimum wage. They just reduce their health insurance benefits. They get no paid vacation time. And of course, Rowan's like, oh, well, then what would you know about running a multi-billion-dollar business? But she calls Rowan out for being a snob, and Rowan's like, you know, I could fire you. Where do you even work? And she's like, oh, I'm one of the beauticians at the Bippity Boppity Boutique. And then, just as he discovers this, the MC announces Rowan to the front in order to talk to the employees. He stands up, and Zara just laughs. So Zara goes to start her shift, and she's talking with her roommate, who is also a beautician at the Bippity Boppity Boutique, and tells her all about her little kerfluffle with Rowan that morning. And of course, Claire has to comment on how hot Rowan is, because as readers, we need to immediately know that our love interest is attractive. But it turns out Claire actually knows quite a bit more than Zara when it comes to Rowan. Apparently, Rowan was the person who stopped raising the salary above minimum wage, so the board denied that. He's also the reason they have such terrible health insurance. Zara's like, ugh, God, can't stand somebody who would be like that. So they go to start their shift, and as Zara's interacting with a child, the parents are absolutely loving the interaction. It's a great little experience for them. And who walks in but Rowan? But Rowan doesn't go in and talk to Zara. No, Rowan goes in and talks to Zara's manager, Regina. And Regina and Zara, let's just say they don't really get along, because Zara at one point was dating somebody, and then her boyfriend broke things off to date Regina's daughter. But he actually was cheating on Zara with Regina's daughter. Not that Regina's gonna, scold her daughter for interacting with that, but now Zara and Regina do not get along at all, obviously, and Rowan is talking to the manager. Zara's pretty much like, great, I'm going to get fired from a job that I actually genuinely enjoy, all because I told off the director of the theme park. And my manager hates me because I was dating the person who her daughter cheated on me with. Then we jump to Rowan, and Rowan's having a meeting with the creators. It's what Disney calls the Imagineers, sort of. So these are the people that create the ideas for the theme parks, ideas for products, the parades, the rides, everything like idea-wise comes from these people. Rowan's having his meeting with them and is like, basically, we need to increase theme park revenue by 5%, and you all need to deliver, and if you don't deliver, your butt is on the chopping block. So they suggest, well, we had this thing before where we open up every year to the entire employees. If they have any ideas, they can pitch them to us. How about we open up that pitch early, since we're on a little bit of a time crunch now and you really want to see this through in the next 6 months, so that way he can get out of the theme parks and back to his little place in Chicago. So everyone's like, fine, open it up to the employees, but you better show me results. So once this is announced, Zara has a couple of ideas, but she's not sure if she wants to submit anything, because she had came up with this idea a couple of years ago that her ex-boyfriend, the one who cheated on her, Lance, actually stole from her. Also, I just realized Lauren Asher also wrote a Formula One series, and I love the fact that the cheating ex-boyfriend's name is Lance. Let's just say Lance Stroll, not my favorite F1 driver, not most people's favorite F1 driver. I don't know if she did that on purpose, but if she did, kudos to Lauren. But anyway, Zara has a couple of ideas, and she came up with this idea of Nebula Land before, where she actually knew and worked with Brady Kane, aka Walt Disney. So they had come up with this idea together, and unfortunately Brady ended up in the hospital for quite a long time. Never really was able to tell anybody based on his condition. He basically wasn't able to speak, wasn't able to interact, was basically in a coma for a long time. And Lance stole her idea, tweaked it, and repackaged it as his own, and they ended up picking Lance's idea for Nebula Land. So Nebula Land exists, but it's nowhere near what Zara and Brady had originally came up with. Zara's roommate Claire is wonderful. She's like, look, you need to apply, you need to submit something, you come up with these great ideas, this is right up your alley. And she's like, you know what? Fine, I will submit my ideas, but tells Claire if she's going to submit her ideas, then Claire has to submit for a job in one of the restaurants in the theme parks. Claire always wanted to be a cook, wanted to be a chef, she doesn't want to be a beautician. So they're both agree, they're like, fine, I'll apply to restaurants, you submit an idea. And Zara's sitting there thinking and trying to come up with some ideas and trying to come up with what would be the best concept, and she's had some wine and a little more, and next thing you know, she's basically finished an entire bottle and trashed the current Nebula Land. I mean, tore it apart, was like, this is the problem with it, this is what you should have done, and drunkenly submits it. A little bit of time passes, and then Zara gets called into Rowan's office. She's like, great, I'm definitely getting fired now, because I basically just tore apart their most expensive ride. Instead, Rowan's actually like, you know what? I like your moxie. I like what you had to say. I'm going to hire you on as one of our creators. Here is a new contract for you to sign. She tries to decline, actually. She's like, you know what? I like what I do. I don't think this is for me. And he's like, you don't actually have a choice in this. Like, it's either this or you're fired. So you have to sign the contract. And she calls him out for being a grump and for being cold and for just being a jerk. So Zara knows she's now been put in a corner and she has to sign this contract. So she is reading through everything. And she's like, you know what, I want to know everything, even the little fine print. And of course, Ron's like, you're not important enough for the fine print, you know, title of the book. And Zara makes a comment like, you know, you're not at all how your grandfather described you. He's like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, I actually knew Brady and he talked really highly of all of his grandsons and you're acting like a jerk. And this is where he notices that she has a bunch of enamel pins on her backpack, like bright cheery ones with sayings and things like that. But one sticks out as she's leaving his office, and that's a semicolon. So once she leaves, Rowan actually goes to meet with his brothers. They all discuss what it is their grandfather wants them to do. So Rowan tells them basically he has to improve Dreamland right now. Declan says he has to get married and have a kid in order to get his inheritance. Cal's like, I'm actually not able to share mine. So we know what book 2 is going to be. It's going to be one of those marriage of convenience books. Whereas we don't know exactly what book 3 is going to be. I have a feeling as a writer why that happened, but I'm not going to speculate. Lauren Asher's never really said why. She didn't really go into much detail as to why. We find out in book 3, but it's a little flat. So the next day at family dinner, Zara tells her parents and her sister Annie that she's gotten a promotion. Now, her parents actually met at Dreamland. They both still work there. Annie doesn't work there. She does become a little bit more important later on in the story, but it's just worth noting Annie has Down syndrome, and that does play a bit of an important role later on in the story. Doesn't at the very start, but just something to note. So on Zara's first day as a creator, Rowan actually takes her down to the creator studio. Why is this director of a multi-billion-dollar theme park directing a new creator where to go? Anyway, so much of this, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief, and it's almost like you just try to get them in as close proximity as possible, as often as possible, even if it doesn't always make the most logical sense. So she's now introduced to all of the creators, and it turns out that there were actually 2 teams of creators, and both of them really wanted to work with her. They absolutely loved her idea. It seemed absolutely wonderful. Her idea was just bashing one of the current rides. Like, it wasn't even really a new, fresh idea. It was just, this is terrible and here are some ways to improve it. But she ends up working with the team. They absolutely love her and they're very excited to work with her. After about a week, she's been there, and they all give presentations to Rowan on Friday about these. The ideas we came up with, this is what we're thinking, XYZ. So they're all giving their presentations. Rowan hasn't been impressed, and Zara goes last. So she's presenting her idea, and her very last part of the presentation is a drawing, and she cannot draw at all. It is terrible. It looks awful. And Rowan calls her out and is like, this is bad. You need to up your drawing skills if you're going to work here. And she's like, well, I'll get right on that, boss. So he's not happy being called out in front of all his employees. He tells everybody to leave the conference room, and then it's just him and Zara alone, and he kisses her. Hello, HR's worst nightmare. That's kind of where the chapter ends. Like, the kiss ends and Rowan has to immediately fly out to Chicago for a board meeting with his brothers. He tells the CEO, his father, and the board that he needs $10 billion to do a big park renovation. And their dad's like, well, I'll need to see some ideas and you'll need to give me a presentation and you'll need to put all this together. That's way too much money to ask for. Let me see if I'm actually going to give you that $10 billion you're asking for. So it's about a week after the kiss, Rowan's returned from his board meeting, and he goes up to Zara's cubicle where she's trying to draw something else, again, for one of the presentations. And he looks at the drawing, he's like, this is terrible, and she's like, well, you're not being very nice about it. And he asks, are you going to go to HR after what happened? Like, I would much rather we took care of this privately if you want. Just name your price, I'll pay it. However, if you want to go to HR, that's your prerogative and I'm not going to stop you. And Zara's like, I don't want your money. Like, I like this job. I like where I'm at. Just stay away from me. Don't do that. So Rowan looks at her drawing and is like, look, this is terrible. I have a friend who can draw. Let me get this to him and he can sort this out for you. So Zara's like, fine. Gives him the drawing and he goes off to have his friend draw it for her. Turns out Rowan is actually kind of an artist, but he stopped drawing a long time ago. It was something that actually him and his grandfather Brady bonded over, was just Rowan's creativity and his love of art and his passion for it. So Rowan actually decides to draw it himself. So he takes Zara's idea and transforms it into this beautiful drawing. He gives it to Zara and doesn't tell her that it was him who drew it. He says that the person who drew it wished to remain anonymous, so Zara's like, okay, that's fine, I totally understand, but give him my phone number so that way I can thank him in person. I'm so appreciative of this. So Rowan takes her phone number and still doesn't admit that it was him who drew it. So now that he has her phone number, Rowan decides to text her as this anonymous artist. So he texts her. Zara, being the bright, bubbly person that she is, uses a lot of exclamation points and a lot of emojis. She's like, thank you so much. I appreciate this. I'd love to treat you to something. What can I do for you? What can I do to really repay you for what you've done for me? And he's like, nope, I don't want to meet. I want to stay anonymous. She's like, okay, well, fine. I don't really have a lot of money to pay you, but here's my passcode to my Netflix subscription. So you can log into Netflix and enjoy it too. Which, when you're making minimum wage, sharing your Netflix subscription with somebody is kind of a big deal. So he doesn't give out his name. He tells her to call him Scott. So Scott and Zara are messaging for a while. They're building a little bit of banter. It's getting a little bit friendly. Not too flirty, not too over the top, but they're starting to build a rapport with each other. Now that Rowan has all these ideas, he flies out to Chicago, presents to the board, and they approve the $10 billion park renovation idea. So Zara is now coming up with a new idea for a brand new roller coaster, but she needs Scott's help. So she asks Scott to draw it for her, which Rowan, aka Scott, does. And then Rowan conveniently delivers them to her when she's alone in the office. So there's nobody else around. Zara's like working on the floor, like doing her thing, and he delivers them to her. And she's like, you know, it's weird to me that you're friends with somebody like Scott, because Scott is this really nice guy, an artist, an animator, and you're you. Zara and Scott are still texting a little bit, and Zara brings up the fact that she absolutely loves Pride and Prejudice. She's seen every single version of it. She's kind of obsessed. And she also loves Bridgerton, but she doesn't call it Bridgerton in the book, obviously. Copyright, I assume. But she calls the show The Duke That Seduced Me, which is so clearly Bridgerton. And he starts teasing her a little bit about it. Like, they're getting a little bit flirty now. They're opening up a little bit more. And Zara has her presentation on the roller coaster that Friday, so she's presenting to Rowan and all of the other creators. And Rowan's like, I don't love this. This isn't great. It should be doing this. We should have backward sections on it. He's basically improving on her idea, and everyone's kind of surprised. Like, he's actually getting really passionate about this and kind of excited over this new ride. Rowan's like, don't like any of these ideas that you presented to me. It doesn't work. You guys need to start working overtime. And somebody actually has the nerve to ask whether or not they'll be paid for that overtime. He's like, I don't reward mediocrity. So it just goes to show you, he's still the grumpy, like, it's even beyond frugal. He's just full on sheep at this point. Does everything he can just to pinch a penny, even if it completely screws over the lives of so many people who work for him. Since he's been drawing so much, Rowan actually goes and orders a tablet so he can start drawing on that. And he's working with Zara on this new castle that's potentially a ride based on Dia de los Muertos. And the two of them are talking, flirting. They're really building this relationship as Zara and Scott. She still has no idea that Scott is actually Rowan, and this has been going on for weeks at this point. So Zara wants to start this sort of mentor program at Dreamland. So she posts these flyers with her phone number and basically an overall idea of what it would be. And Rowan notices that it's her information that's on there, and he basically takes all the phone numbers off the flyer, so it looks like there are a lot of people that were interested, when in reality he just doesn't want other people to have her phone number. that's healthy. So it's the first day of the mentor program, and Rowan's the only one that shows up. So it is Rowan, Zara, her sister Annie, who has Down syndrome, and Annie's boyfriend, JD, who also has Down syndrome. So obviously the pairing gets swapped around. So Rowan is now with Annie and is taking her around the park. Annie is very honest. She just tells Rowan how terrible Zara's ex-boyfriend was and how she doesn't like the way that her ex-boyfriend would treat her, and Zara deserves somebody who would treat her a lot better than that. And Rowan is like collecting all this information that Annie is telling him. And Annie points out, like, my sister seems a lot happier. There might be another guy in the picture, but she hasn't really told me about it. So Rowan's feeling pretty good about himself and this whole Scott thing that's happening. So Rowan and Zara are texting. Rowan's still Scott. And they've basically developed this sort of routine now. They text pretty regularly. He sends her drawings for presentations every week. They've watched Pride and Prejudice together. He started watching The Duke Who Seduced Me. So Zara is really starting to develop feelings for Scott. So at the next mentor program, they go bowling. So while they're there, Annie and JD are off doing their own little boyfriend-girlfriend flirty thing, which leaves Zara and Rowan the chance to talk alone. And Zara is really surprised at how good Rowan is at bowling, of all things. And he's like, I was actually varsity in college. My dad always insisted that we had to play some sort of sport. Of course, Declan, the absolutely amazing older brother that he is, was quarterback of the football team, and my younger brother Cal was captain of the hockey team. But I was never really into sports, so I kind of got into bowling because it's not exactly the most athletic sport out there. So that's how he became a really good bowler. But this is where we also learn how basically ever since their mom died, their dad was an absolute hard ass on all three of his sons, basically pushed them to the point of abuse, and no matter what they did, they would never be able to please their dad. So a long time ago, they stopped trying. So Zara's turn, she goes up to bowl, she gets a strike, and she gets so excited that she actually flings her arms around Rowan and gives him a giant hug in the middle of the bowling alley because she is so excited. Which ever since they kissed is really their first like physical contact, and it's cute. Like, we like bowling alley scenes. They're cute, they're fun. So for the mentor program, Rowan and Annie have been meeting every week, and Annie lets him know, like, you know, I'm pretty sure you and my sister both have a crush on each other. Like, I see the way you two looked at each other. I see the way you two are kind of talking to each other. Like, I can tell you're definitely into my sister. And Rowan feels kind of called out, but also like, finally, somebody has put into words all these things that he is feeling and was not able to verbalize because he is a grumpy robot who had no prior emotions before meeting Zara. So yay, somebody else was able to tell him that he has a crush on Zara. So Zara and Scott are texting each other, and it's pretty late at night, and Zara just casually mentions, yeah, I still haven't eaten yet. So Rowan's kind of upset that it's this late at night, she's working alone, and she still hasn't eaten. So he just casually swings by late at night just to see if anybody else was still around and working when he notices she's there alone. So I was like, you know, I'm hungry, I was thinking about ordering Chinese takeout, do you want some? So he orders Chinese food. They're sitting on the floor, eating, and basically just talking, bonding, getting to know each other a bit. So at the next mentor thing, they're doing pumpkin carving. So Annie, who's supposed to pick up the pumpkin conveniently, only managed to get two of them. So her and her boyfriend go to work on one, Zara and Rowan work on the other. And while they're talking, Rowan just casually throws out, like, just out of curiosity, if you had an unlimited amount of money, what would you do with it? And Zara's like, well, I'd donate it to charity, but I wouldn't do it as a tax write-off the way the Dreamland business and the Kane Company does. And he's like, well, what else? And she's like, I'm a big reader, so I'd probably buy first editions of all my favorite romance books. And he's like, oh, you wouldn't buy a bunch of those enamel pins you're always wearing? And she just like freezes in front of him. She's like, that's not how that works at all. And it completely changes the mood and the shift in that dynamic. So now she's kind of got a little bit of a secret that he's curious about, but she doesn't tell him anything else about the pins. So it's a little bit later, Scott and Zara are texting, and Zara mentions that she's actually busy right now because she's tutoring a couple of the kids for one of the other Dreamland workers. He's like, well, what do you mean? Like, it's late at night. Why are you tutoring somebody else's kids? And she's like, well, their parent actually has a second job because Dreamland doesn't actually pay people enough to earn a livable wage just having that. A lot of other Dreamland employees have other jobs. So Rowan's kind of perturbed by this, and he calls in his personal assistant. And he's like, you have a second job, right? And she's like, well, yeah, I bartend, and this is like a sweet, 50-year-old woman with some ankle problems and a bit of a limp. So she's like, yeah, I bartend because my husband can't really do anything because he has a heart condition. He can't really work anymore. He's like, well, doesn't the insurance take care of that? And she's like, well, no, you slashed all of our insurance, so we have like bare minimum insurance. I need a second job just in order to pay for his medication. So Rowan is really frustrated and upset at all this, so he ends up giving his personal assistant a big bonus. She's so surprised that she passes out in the office. And kind of inspired by all this and talking to Zara about what's been going on, even though he's been talking to her as Scott, he goes to see Zara the next day and get a little bit more information about what it's like being a Dreamland employee. And it turns out that Zara actually took one of her, of course, unpaid vacation days to go explore the park. So Rowan goes into the park to find her. So when he runs into her at the park, she's actually in line at like the fake haunted mansion. So he's like, look, if you want to do this whole park thing, I'll go with you. Let's just get to the front of the line. She's like, well, no, I want to see what it's actually like for the guests. So they wait in line, they get on the ride, and Rowan mentions like he hasn't been on this ride since he was 10. His mom absolutely loved it. He hasn't really been able to get on it since. He hasn't really appreciated being in the park since because his mom loved the park so much. She loved living in Florida so much. And he was so hurt after her death that he basically wanted nothing to do with Dreamland. They go through the ride, he gets scared, it takes a picture, and she thinks it's absolutely hilarious, so she actually wants a copy of it, even though Rowan's like, burn that picture. He ends up buying it for her, which, that's kind of sweet. I kind of wish that they mentioned later on, like, that picture was still around somewhere, but no, he does buy the picture for her. It's pretty cute. So they go on another ride, and it's this sort of Hawaiian volcano-themed roller coaster, and this time Rowan's like, I'm not standing in line, we're going up to the front. So he uses who he is to go up to the front of the line. They get at the front of the roller coaster, they ride it, and Zara's like, oh my god, that was so much fun, I want to ride it again. He's like, okay, let's everybody else off, a new group of people on, but they stay on and they get to ride it again a few times. It's like, let's be real, how many times have we gone to a theme park and we've all wanted to do that? Like, can I just stay on and do this like 2 or 3 more times? Like, I don't care if everybody else gets off and on, I just want to stay on a few more times. So then they're going through a part of the park where it's like decorated for Christmas. And one of the things that it does is it lets out this fake snow, so it's kind of like, I guess, bubbles or something that fall down as they're looking around, drinking hot chocolate, enjoying the little winter wonderland thing. A kid bumps into Zara, who pushes her into Rowan, and the two of them end up kissing. And they're both like, no, we shouldn't do this. Zara's like, you're my boss, I shouldn't be attracted to you. And Rowan says, well, I shouldn't be attracted to you because you are everything that I hate in a person. And Zara's like, wow. I thought you might actually be a good guy, but it turns out you just want everybody to be as miserable as you, and she leaves. And this is that big turning point for Rowan because he's like, you know what? I need to do better. So he calls Zara into his office the next day and decides to be upfront and honest and admits that he is actually Scott and she has been texting him for the last couple of months. Zara, understandably, naturally, like most people, is absolutely furious. She's like, you know what? We are no longer friends at this point. I want nothing to do with you. Don't talk to me unless it has to do with work. I want nothing to do with you. So as part of the mentor program, Rowan and Annie are still meeting up, and they actually get together and they bake cupcakes as sort of an apology for Zara, even though it's not really going to work. And he kind of knows that it's more of a, let me do something physical and an action to show you how I actually am sorry. And they're talking, and Annie's like, look, at this point she thinks you're as bad as her ex-boyfriend Lance. So I don't know what you can do to fix it, but you're a smart guy and you need to figure it out. Zara ends up submitting her resignation letter, so she is ready to leave Dreamland, quit everything, and leave all of this behind. Rowan calls her into his office and is like, look, I'm not accepting your resignation yet. I want you to actually sit down and listen to me, and let's have a talk about all this, and if after that you still feel like you want to quit, I will accept your resignation. So they agree to meet later that night at his place. So the two of them meet that night, and this is that big, huge emotional upheaval scene where they finally learn each other's kind of deepest, darkest secrets to some extent. So Rowan tells her all about his past, about how he used to absolutely love drawing with his grandfather. When his grandfather got sick, he basically stopped drawing, and his dad hated anything to do with something that was artsy or anything that he saw that might be feminine. If it wasn't sports related, his dad wanted his sons to have nothing to do with it. So he made drawing as miserable as possible for Rowan until Rowan stopped. So Rowan quit drawing a long time ago, even though he absolutely loves it. He says he's also this way because he has a really hard time trusting people. He's always been used for his money. He lost his virginity and the woman secretly filmed it and got a huge payday out of it. He's used to people using him to get money, to get what they want, not for who he actually is. So he learned a long time ago to stop trusting people. And Zara's like, look, I kind of understand where you're coming from. Like, it's hard for me to trust people now because of what my ex-boyfriend did to me. So she tells him all about Lance and how Lance cheated on her with Regina's daughter, and how the two of them are actually now engaged, and how Lance got a huge payday for his idea of Nebula Land, which he actually stole from her. The two of them opening up leads to a very nice, spicy scene in his house. My battery's about to die. I'll be right back. And we're back. It's post-spicy scene. So these two have just, and Zara's like, you know, he probably doesn't want me to stick around. So she goes to get changed, and he's like, what are you doing? He pulls her back into bed. He's like, okay, so which version of Pride and Prejudice do you want to watch tonight? So they cuddle, they fall asleep, watch one of the Pride and Prejudices, and Zara goes home, and her roommate's like, I see what you're doing, but remember, you're also not the kind of person that could really do like casual hookups, so I don't want to see you get hurt. And Zara's like, no, we're just friends, we're keeping it casual, it's nothing like that. So Rowan takes Zara on a proper date. They go to the fanciest restaurant in Orlando, and while they're there, who else ends up showing up but Lance and his fiance? So Rowan tries to distract Zara with this game of like, would you rather at the table, and it works until Lance comes over and introduces himself to Rowan and talks to Zara, and Zara's like, why are you even here? And Lance's like, oh, well, we're celebrating our anniversary. And Zara's like, isn't it really poor taste to celebrate the day that you started having an affair? And Rowan's like, you know what, I'm going to send a bottle of Dom Perignon over to their table in order to celebrate Lance's new promotion to the creators team in China. And Zara's like, wait, can you even do that? He's like, yeah, basically now Lance has the option of either moving to China or quitting. To which she is so turned on and thankful for screwing over her cheating ex-boyfriend that they lead to a spicy scene. Not in the restaurant. So the next week at work, Rowan comes over to Zara's desk and is like, so Annie invited me over to family dinner, so I guess I'll see you there. Are we going to go out on a date after dinner? And she's like, oh, okay. So Rowan meets Zara's parents, and of course Annie's there as well. Her parents absolutely love him from the start. So they're like, oh, so what's it like in Chicago? We've never actually really seen or experienced snow. He's like, what do you mean? You've never gone on vacation or anything? That's where they admit that even though they both work full-time jobs for Dreamland, they've never really been able to afford a vacation because they get paid so little. So after dinner, they go back to Zara's apartment, and there's already an overnight bag that Annie had packed for Zara. So he tells her, okay, we're going on my private jet and we're going up to New York. So they go from Florida up to New York. It's snowing, it's a winter, it's pretty, and it turns out that he had actually set up a private book signing with Zara's favorite author. So her overnight bag includes every single copy of that author's books. She meets her, she gets to spend some time with her favorite author. She is absolutely in cloud nine, on cloud nine. As they leave, it starts snowing, they kiss in the snow, magical, cute, absolutely love it. So up in the penthouse suite afterwards, Rowan orders them a pizza, and they're sitting there talking, and Rowan asks her about the pins again, and she's like, there was a time where I was very seriously depressed and wasn't sure I was going to be able to get up every single day. So I started going to therapy. Claire suggested it, and every time I went to therapy, Claire actually bought me an enamel pin afterwards, kind of as a reward and an incentive to keep going. So those pins mean a lot to her. They meant a lot during the darkest period of her life, which is why she couldn't just buy an infinite amount of pins afterwards. They actually have an important meaning tied to them. So they're still up in New York. They actually go to the Rockefeller Center. They build a snowman, all the cute like little wintry Christmas things. When Declan gives Rowan a call and is like, hey, what are you doing like messing around with some woman who works for you? You're supposed to be focusing on your letter, your task, and getting the park up to speed so that way we can kick Dad out of his position. You're getting distracted. The idea was for you to just be there for 6 months, and then you come back to Chicago, and then you could also fill in for my CFO role while I look for a wife to fulfill my part of my duties. So now Rowan is kind of torn because he's finally found a reason to actually want to stay in the parks, and now he's torn between family obligations and making sure they're able to kick his toxic father out of the CEO role. So they come back from New York, and Zara actually gets really, really sick. And at one point, like, it seems like she's had pneumonia for 3 days. And at one point she passes out, falls, and hits her head, and Rowan's there to witness it. So He takes her over to the hospital. They basically say it's going to be a really long delay and a wait and stuff like that because of the absolutely terrible insurance that they've given him. So Rowan has now sort of shot herself in the foot. So of course Rowan's like, whatever it is, I'll pay for it. Don't worry about it. Don't deal with the insurance. But he's now feeling incredibly guilty for basically destroying the initial insurance plan for all of his employees. So once Zara wakes up in the hospital, Rowan tells her everything that's going on, what happened, that she's been basically in a coma for the last 2 days. And he then tells her, like, look, this is getting way too serious. This wasn't supposed to happen. I'm supposed to go back to Chicago. I'm breaking this off. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, we were really starting to connect. I don't understand it. She's like, look, you were just a fun way to spend time while I was here for a short period. This wasn't supposed to be anything serious, which of course we know isn't genuinely true. It isn't actually the reason. It's one of those I need to hurt you so that way you'll stay away from me moments. So Rowan goes to talk to Annie, and Annie wants nothing to do with them. She completely ignores him. Is like, you've absolutely ruined my sister. I want nothing to do with you anymore. So Rowan is fed up, tired. He goes for a run around his very fancy little mansion on the Disney/Dreamland estate. While he's running, he runs into this old swing that his mom used to swing on all the time on the property, and he just gets so upset and distraught seeing it. He goes to dismantle it and then sees something that his mom had written on there, a cute little script. So he's like, what am I even doing with my life? What is the point of this? So Zara's come home. She's finally recovered, and Brady Kane's lawyer actually sends her a letter letting him know that she's been selected as one of the voting members of the committee that Rowan is going to be presenting to in order to basically save the theme park, and she now has a voting right in it. Which leads Zara to wonder, did Rowan know about this the whole time? Because I'm not even qualified to be a creator. He didn't really know who I was. I didn't really have a great idea. Was that why he actually picked me to be a creator and basically start this little relationship with me so that way he could sweeten me up and I'd vote in his favor? So at work, Zara's giving a presentation about basically the park being more inclusive, and her manager stands up and thanks her for all the hard work that she's done. And this is where Rowan realizes that Zara's quit and today's actually her last day. So Rowan goes up to her and tries to convince her to stay, but she's like, no, at this point, I want nothing to do with this. I can't trust you anymore. I'm done. So Rowan actually pays a visit to his dad and was like, I just have a question for you. When you knew Mom was dying, was it worth it staying with her? And his dad, kind of in a surprising moment, is actually sort of sweet about it and was like, yeah, absolutely, I loved your mom. I would have stayed with her every moment of every day if I could. So that sort of solidifies in Rowan's head. He wants to be with Zara no matter what. So on Christmas, the three brothers are having dinner together, and Rowan tells them he plans on staying in Florida. He's not going to take the CFO role in Chicago. He's going to stay as director of the theme parks. After Christmas, Rowan flies over to Zara's place and is like, please forgive me, please take me back. And she closes the door in his face. So it's the big committee presentation. It turns out that it is Zara, Martha, who is Rowan's personal assistant, the one he gave the big bonus to, and their father. So the three of them are the voting committee, and Rowan gives his presentation. And his presentation isn't about all of these rides and things like that. It's about improving the livelihood of the people who work there. So improving health insurance, giving proper raises, making sure that people can afford to live on just that salary. So they put in their votes, and as they leave, Zara flips off Seth Kane. Brilliant moment. So it's now after this committee meeting, and of course Rowan's plan gets voted in, 2-1 vote. So afterwards, Rowan's like, look, I really need to talk to you. Zara's like, okay, fine. One last chance, I'll talk to you. So he admits that he's been in love with her the whole time, but he was terrified after seeing what his dad has turned into since his mom passed away. So he says he loves her. She admits that she loves him too. Big happy ending. And it turns out that Rowan says, so technically you're not actually fired from Dreamland yet. She's like, what do you mean? I've already quit. I gave you my resignation letter. He's like, you didn't read the fine print of your contract, because according to that, you have to actually have an exit interview with me before your resignation takes place. So congratulations, you still have your job. So the new Nebula Land attraction opens up in the epilogue. They cut the ribbon and there's this big awards type ceremony or something afterwards. So Zara's mom goes up and hugs her and swaps out the enamel pin that Zara's wearing for a bun in the oven pin, which of course then Rowan notices and realizes that she's pregnant. Then there's an extended epilogue where the baby's a little bit older, and Rowan is reading a bedtime story to them, like one that was custom made about his and Zara's love story. The kids go to sleep, and then him and Zara sit on the front porch and watch the Disney fireworks. So nice little tidy ending, which of course it's a romance novel, of course it's going to be a happy ending. But it's cute that if there was an epilogue and then an extended epilogue. I've actually never read that in a book until it was like the very end of a series, and then you saw an extended epilogue with everybody coming back. I love that there was actually that extended bit. This book was a fun read, I'm not going to lie. Was it groundbreaking? No. Did I learn anything from it? No. Did I enjoy it? I enjoyed every page of this, to be honest. Even though there were some parts where I'm like, oh my god, this makes no sense, or I don't know why they would do this, or oh, this could have been done a little bit better. I still had so much fun with this book. The audiobook was fantastic. Highly recommend if you could get your hands on the audiobook. But overall, this was just such a fun read. As somebody who went to the Disney parks growing up, I saw so many things that I'm like, oh my god, I remember that from childhood, or oh my god, that's such a throwback to the parks. So if you're like a Disney adult, or if you're somebody who grew up around the parks or went to the parks a couple of times and really do appreciate those memories, this will resonate with you in a way that some other books don't. Like if you read a book and you're like, oh my god, I've been there before, and they're actually able to pull in details, like it just feels so personal. And I absolutely love the way Lauren Asher did this with the Disney parks, because even though it was obvious to the reader what she was talking about, it obviously copyright, you can't use the names, it wasn't so on the nose, it wasn't heavy-handed, it didn't feel like I had a Disney adult lecturing me during this book. So that's it, guys, The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. Let me know down below if you want me to do 2 other books in the series. Also, let me know if you have any other book recommendations or videos you want me to do, because I'm always looking for those. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!